half of us have to die for us to attain a liberty for our posterity, for our generations to come. So be the case. So when we talk about the cost of our liberation, we need to talk about the cost of our liberation. We need to talk about what it will take for Africa to unite. There was one of the Mongolian warlords, Genghis Khan. He said, "I'm the punishment of God. Had you not offended God, God would not have sent the punishment as me upon you." Now, when he talked to his God, his sky God, and prayed to his sky God, he said, "I would like to unite the Mongols." Today, they said every man out of 200 men is his descendant.
Wow.
So he said, "I would like to unite the Mongols, even if it means I have to kill half of them to unite them." So he calculated the cost of uniting his people, that if it will cost half of them,
It will come at a cost.
it will come at a cost. So we don't talk about the cost of African unity. We don't talk about the cost of African revolution. We don't talk about the cost of our total liberation, that what it will cost for us to attain our total liberation. And are we willing to pay that price?
That's right.
Yes.
Oh, this has been really amazing, and I feel awakened in a whole lot of areas that have been grey in my head and been seeking answers. Obviously, when it comes to exactly what are the steps that we need to take as the next generation of leaders, because with the current generation of leaders, it's the same story, it's the same rhythm, it's the same hymn that is being sung throughout Africa, whereby there's mass looting, money disappears, and they're not held accountable.
Yes.
Then you look at it, okay, if it's happening, let's say, for example, in DRC, the other leaders from Namibia, from Tanzania, from where, what are they saying about this? They're just looking at another fellow leader doing this to their own people. Because after all, yes, they belong to their country in which they are ruling, but also another state is their people as well. But they're looking and doing nothing.
Well, that's what gives perception, like an institution like the African Union are just gentlemen's club. Give perceptions like institutions like the African Union are the gentlemen's club, where they have some gentlemen's agreement. One dictator agree with the other, even if it causes problem. I remember one time they were trying to point it out with Uncle Bob, the former president, Comrade R.G. Mugabe,
Yes.
that it is a problem that the economical situation or the political meltdown in Zimbabwe, it affects the other countries in the region in terms of migration and immigration patterns. And even if it means half of us have to die for us to attain a liberty for our posterity, for our generations to come, so be the case. So when we talk about the cost of our liberation, we need to talk about the cost of our liberation. We need to talk about what it will take for Africa to unite. There was one of the Mongolian warlords, Genghis Khan. He said, "I'm the punishment of God. Had you not offended God, God would not have sent the punishment as me upon you." Now, when he talked to his God, his sky God, and prayed to his sky God, he said, "I would like to unite the Mongols." Today, they said every man out of 200 men is his descendant.
Wow.
So he said, "I would like to unite the Mongols, even if it means I have to kill half of them to unite them." So he calculated the cost of uniting his people.
And what is that for?
And the people are suffering on a serious note. So now, at what level do we have such a type of conversation? We don't, because I think our leaders, they sit down and start to compare their loot. They compare their bank account, they compare their houses.
Yes, who's got more than who? Yeah.
More. So therefore, it more like create a situation of more looting, So and therefore, you look aside, blind sight, and you don't check that because you're also looking to do that. And I think I see it more with our leadership in South Africa here. It's like every incoming leadership, they have the idea of it's our time to eat. Now, as their time to eat, they are going to try to accumulate as much as possible. As they can. So if that is happening on this level of ours, you can imagine on the level of country level that I know that you as a former president, you cashed in about 70 billion. So I want to do 140 billion. I want to surpass you. You built your Ngandla house. I want to build 3 Ngandlas. You understand? So I think the greed, the crass materialism, Western consumerism, Western concept of accumulation, our idea of wealth, also put us in that position that I think our leaders don't have a honest conversation, or they're having a conversation that is convenient to their material needs. That, I need to at least have 100 million because I need to secure the future of my children, or my wife, or wives, or girlfriends, and expenditure, and so forth. So it is a dilemma deeply rooted in our outlook, how we look at our countries. Do we look at our countries as our source of income, as our piggy bank, as where we can whenever we want, or we look at leadership as something that I don't have to be held accountable, and I'm not accountable to the taxpayers, or as a leader, everything in my country belongs to me, I can sell the resources and so forth. Also, those things are factors that affect our idea of power.
Yeah, well, one of the last questions that I have for you would be like, the outside Africans, like African Americans or European Africans, do they have a role to play in as far as changing the current state of affairs in Africa is concerned?
They do, and that is fundamentally what is required by Pan-Africanism. A movement that recognizes African unity, African development, African progress by Africans at home and abroad. We know that the Africans in the diaspora or in the Western Hemisphere, they didn't go there out of their free will. They were stolen from this continent, so they are a stolen human resource, so which is a vital human resource required for African Renaissance. If we are going to talk about rebuilding of Africa, it's going to take Africans at home and abroad. If we are going to talk about African liberation, it's going to take Africans home and abroad, because this is their home, this is their continent. When they are tired in the West, or when the West sink, they like to refer to places like Jamaica as a sinking sand. Every now and then it's hit by hurricanes and storm events. So if we are going to be to get out of this quagmire, it requires Africans at home and abroad. So it's a joint effort, and which, just like Israel is being led by the Jews in the Israel, and in the diaspora, what they call the diaspora Jews, and they're constantly pumping in a lot of resources to build their homeland. So Africa is a homeland of African people. As long as you're a black man, you're an African. You've got an identity. There is no nationality. Africa is our continent, and Africa is highly mismanaged. So we need all the African brain, African resources, African know-how to build our continent and to make a better home for ourselves, our children, and for those who will come as our tourists and our visitors. So the presence and the contributions of Africans from abroad it cannot be overemphasized. It's very important.
Wow. My last question now is, what are the last words that you have for people of my generation in as far as finding yourself and your place in a community and in the continent as a whole, or in the world at large as an African? What are the things that we need to look at and focus at, so that we don't fall into the same traps that our fathers fell into?
Well, we need to understand that as Africans, we are a family. One big family. So the next man is my kinsman, is my kith and kin.
Yes.
All this seems to be differences, whether it's your surname, it's your totem, it's your clan, it's your tribe, are all superficial. We are one. Now, from we understand that families do things together. But families do have differences too, but they're still family. So even if we differ in everything, we are family. So in our familyness, we need to embrace what is ours, our indigenous thing. We have a saying that if you can't name it, you can't claim it.
True.
If I ask you, what is the window in your language and you don't have it, it means it's not yours. Yeah, so we need to claim what is ours. We need to draw pride in them. They might not be popular. Most of the things, we have taken other people's mythology as our reality. But it's because of those mythologies have powerful medium to promote them. The Batman, the Superman, they have Hollywood to promote Batman and Superman. And we don't have any form of medium to tell us about the story of Musikabane.
No.
And I said, so where we can draw our own inspiration. So, but we also know that we need to do it for ourselves. So the current generation don't embrace this labeling as I'm a 2000 or the born free. What is it you're born free from? Which we who were born before that are not free from. Nothing different. There's no difference. So now, in terms of our future outlook and our current outlook is that we need to embrace as much of our Africanness as possible, whether in music, in clothes, in language. You need to learn as many African languages as you can. You need to learn as many African cultures as you can. You need to learn as much African history as you can, because therein lies our oneness, our strength, our power. And people without a knowledge of their past, like a tree without roots. So as long as we don't have a knowledge of our past, we don't understand that our black skin is not a mark of shame, but it's our badge of honor. So until then, we will be slaves to others. But we need to understand that there is no free black man and there is no free black man. All classes of black people are servants of the Europeans. Whether you have a PhD, whether you are a Christian, whether you are Muslim, whether you are a Buddhist, whether you are what, all classes of black people are servants of the Europeans. So our struggle is one. Our liberation is one. If we strive towards our liberation as a collective, we strive towards our oneness as collective, strive towards our progress as collective. That is our final hope for our race. Until then, you will sit in your suntan and looking at those who are in Alexander and saying,
as if they are nothing.
As if they are nothing, but both of you are in the same boat, because let's look at juxtaposing ourselves against white supremacy racism. A white man, whether he's a Rasta or not, is first and foremost white. Whether you get a white sangoma dressed up like all of that, is first and foremost white. Yes. So it is the same with you. Obama is still a nigger president.
Yes.
Whether he was a president or not, and whether you have a PhD, he's just a nigger with a PhD. Whether you are a big reverend, you're just a nigger with so much knowledge of theology.
Yes, you're smoking the same part.
Yes, give thanks.
Now, give thanks. We appreciate all the knowledge and insight. We hope to have more conversations with you, obviously, to enlighten more people and more lives in terms of how Africanicity and our own authenticity can help us become, a better and great nation that we are. Because I feel everything starts from knowledge. The knowledge that we spread out there is the one that determines and shapes, like you said, what you consume, what you wear, what you listen to. It's all because of the prejudice that is spread across cultures. Thank you so much. It's been an honor having you on the show.
Thank you so much for having us on your show. It's a great honor, and even to your listeners, we hope that we have made a difference in their level of knowledge and information.
Definitely. Well, can you just pass your details perhaps for those who would want to have direct contact with you? Maybe they might need help in anything. Where can they reach you?
Well, I'm popularly at Facebook, Tau Haramanuba.
Tau Haramanuba on Facebook.
And then, of course, my WhatsApp number is 073 788 5808.
Okay.
And through WhatsApp, then we can share some books, PDFs, materials that we can read to continue enhancing our knowledge. As you know that our knowledge is not lost, it's just scattered into pieces.
True.
Like a broken glasses all over the place. We must just bring it together to put the puzzle together.
No, we appreciate Mr. Tau Haramanuba. It's been a pleasure, ladies and gentlemen. I've been excited. I hope you who are listening from wherever you are